The function that we will be solving is 4 cos x. I will find out the domain, the range, and the period. So, to find the period is basically how long it takes for one cycle to happen. So basically, since the 4 is in front of the cos, the period doesn't change at all. It's same as the function cos x. So the period is 2 pi. And the domain is the same. It's basically 0 to 2 pi radians. And the range is, so basically, if I draw the graph of cos x, the graph basically looked like this very roughly. Excuse my drawing, it's a little messy. And basically, the maximum point of a cos graph is 1, and the minimum value is -1. But since there's a 4 in front of this function, these maximum and minimum values are times by 4. So the range would be 4 and -4. Yes, we solved the first question. The second question that I'll be solving is 2 plus secant x. To solve this, first convert this into, I'll write it all down. I will convert the sec x into cos 1 over cos x, because that's what a sec is. And I have to find the domain, the range, and the period for this graph, just like the one that I did above. To find the domain, well, since cos x is the function cos x, the period of cos x is 360. People might mistake that this will be the same as cos x, but it's not. Since this is 1 over cos x, the cos x cannot be 0. So let's find out. Cos x cannot equal to 0, right? So it's basically, let's find out what makes cos x equal to 0.
The next question is f of x is equal to 3 cosec x plus pi over 2. So we have to find the period, the range, and the domain. So the period, first we're going to convert cosec x plus pi over 2 into 1 over sine x plus pi over 2. So it's 3 times 1 over sine x plus pi over 2. Okay, so now to find the domain, we know that sine x plus pi over 2 cannot equal 0, as it will be an undefined equation. So using my calculator, I can find that sine 0 is equal to 0. Okay, so x plus pi over 2 is equal to 0. This means that x is equal to minus pi over 2 radians. Minus pi over 2 radians. So we found out that x belongs to real numbers and it cannot equal to minus pi over 2. Now for the range. Okay, so since we have 1 over sine x, the ranges for the graph of sine x is minus 1 and 1. Since there is the number 3, we can multiply minus 1 and 1 by 3. So that's minus 3 and 3. That is the range of the equation. So we have our range. Now to find the period. Okay, so since x is not multiplied or divided by anything in the brackets, we know that the period has to be the same as it normally is for sine x. So we know that the period is actually 360 degrees. And that's how you solve this question. Yeah.
Question 9a, draw the cosec graph. Okay, so here is the sine graph. We'll be needing the sine graph because basically cosec is sine x over 1. It is inversely proportional. So we can easily predict that the graph will be a flip over of the sine x graph. Sort of like this. To be more accurate, we can apply the x-intercepts to y equals sine x over 1, which will be cosec x. So take 30 degrees for example. It would be y equals sine 30 over 1. Since sine 30 is half, it would be 2. So for the y equals cosec x graph, the y-intercept for 30 degrees would be 2. So if we plot the y-intercepts of the cosec graph, it will basically be like this. 30 degrees 2, 60 degrees square root 3 over 2, which is just sine x over 1. So if we plot the cosec graph out of all the results in the table, it will basically look like this. So the domain will be x equals to x belongs to R, but x can't be 180n because here at a 180 degrees it will all be like off to infinity every 180n, and the range would be y belongs to R, and the period would be 360, which is 2 pi. It will just appear the same shape as this for every 360, I mean 2 pi. For y equals cosec x plus 1, we would just need to move all the graph just the one more than like one higher. So like if we shift the graph just one higher, it would be
it would be like this. Up to 0. This one up to 0 and this one up to 2. And so like sort of like the borderline would be up to 1. And so only the range of the whole graph would change. It would be y, 0, and y. It's bigger than 2 and y is lower than 0. Okay, that's it. Thank you.